consumer alert for you. A big recall from Ford. The company is recalling more than 112,000 F-150 trucks.
Safety regulators have launched an investigation into nearly 1.3 million Ford F-150 pickup trucks.
Prices are collapsing, and Ford's panic might be your opportunity. Brand new F-150s that once listed for $78,000 are already going for tens of thousands less at auction.
Ford is now recalling more than 112,000 of its popular F-150 pickup trucks.
But behind those discounts hides a brutal trap. Finance terms reaching 80 to 24% interest that can double what you owe. Buy smart and you win big. Buy blind and you lose everything. In this video, I'll show you which trims are safe, which ones to avoid, and how to talk your dealer down before the next wave of repossessions floods the market. The lot that time forgot. Walk onto any Ford dealership lot in America right now, and you'll witness something that should be impossible in 2025. Rows and rows of brand new F-150s stretching into the distance like a graveyard of unsold steel. At J.C. Lewis Ford in Georgia, the scene is borderline apocalyptic. Front row, all F-150s. Side lot, F-150s. Overflow area behind service, F-150s as far as the eye can see. Every single one a 2025 model. This isn't normal inventory management. This is crisis. Here's the kicker. Production of 2026 F-150s has been put on hold. Ford literally cannot move the current model year. Meanwhile, every competitor has flooded their lots with 2026s. Chevrolet, more 26 Silverados than 25s. GMC Sierra, same story. Ram 1500, already dominated by next year's models. These brands moved on months ago. They read the room. They adjusted. Ford is stuck in 2025, desperately trying to convince America these trucks are still relevant. Still worth buying, that nothing is wrong, but something is wrong, catastrophically wrong, and what Ford just did to fix it is about to destroy lives. The $80,000 problem. Let's talk about what it means when your lot is flooded with trucks nobody can afford. Ford bet big on the F-150. They always do. It's been America's best-selling vehicle for 47 consecutive years. A cultural icon, a symbol of American grit and blue-collar pride. Ford's entire financial empire is built on this truck's back, and right now, it's collapsing. The problem started with price. Over 5 years, Ford pushed the F-150 upmarket, added luxury trims, packed in technology, turned a work truck into a $70,000 lifestyle vehicle. Lariats became the new base model in dealers' eyes. Platinum and Tremor editions filled lots. The company convinced itself buyers would keep paying more and more, except this time they didn't. When every F-150 on the lot costs between $60,000 and $85,000, and only 2 trucks out of over 100 are priced under $60,000, you've priced out your core customer. The weekend warrior can't afford an $80,000 Platinum. The small business owner can't justify $78,000 for hauling tools. The young family walks straight to the used lot. While Ford congratulated themselves on premium pricing, Chevrolet and Ram ate their lunch. Not with better trucks, with better value. But Ford's response wasn't to lower prices. It was to lower standards. If you're catching this early, hit like so more buyers see it before prices slide further. I post verified dealer data and auction results every week. So if you want to stay ahead of the next markdown, tap subscribe and turn on alerts. When desperation meets predation. The average credit score in America right now is 716. That's considered good credit. You get approved for decent interest rates, maybe 5 to 7%. If you're 750 plus, you're golden. 0% financing in some cases. But what if you're not? What if life kicked you around? Medical bills piled up? You missed payments during COVID. You went through a divorce. You're sitting at 620 or below, what the industry calls subprime. In the normal world, that meant you weren't getting approved for a $60,000 truck. Not from Ford Credit. They'd politely decline and send you to a third-party lender charging 15 to 18%. It wasn't personal. It was risk management. Ford didn't want to lend $80,000 to someone statistically likely to default until now. That policy, the one protecting both Ford and buyers from catastrophic financial mistakes, it's gone. As of this month, Ford Credit is actively approving subprime borrowers for F-150 purchases. They're not advertising it, not putting it in commercials. But the leaked internal memo is clear. Ford is opening floodgates to 620 and below credit scores to move inventory. If you have a credit score in the 580s, Ford will hand you keys to a $78,000 Platinum. Finance the whole thing, smile and congratulate you, and charge you between 18 and 24% interest. The memo that changed everything. The article dropped on CNBC like a bomb. Ford expands subprime lending to move F-150 inventory. Within hours, every automotive journalist was covering it. Car channels, industry analysts, finance reporters. Everyone wanted to know, what is Ford thinking? The company's response was carefully sanitized. A Ford spokesperson explained the move was about expanding access to financing options and meeting customer needs in a changing market. They claimed it was about inclusivity, giving more Americans opportunity to own an F-150. But buried in every article was the same damning quote from Ford insiders. "We have too much inventory of existing F-150s. We need to move them." There it is. Truth stripped bare. This isn't about helping subprime buyers achieve the American dream. This is about Ford sitting on hundreds of millions worth of unsold trucks and panicking. About production lines that can't build 2026s until 25s are gone. About quarterly earnings calls and investor pressure. The memo revealed something darker. Ford Credit will handle approvals case by case using multiple variables. Translation: they're not announcing interest rates publicly. No ad saying, "Got a 580 score? Come pay 22%. They'll bury terms in fine print. Get buyers excited about approval, then hit them with the payment. $2,000 monthly, maybe $2,500. Ford knows these buyers are subprime for a reason, and they're doing it anyway. What 620 really means. A credit score of 620 isn't just a number, it's a story. It's a person who's been through something. Maybe they bought a house before 2008 and watched value crater. Maybe they started a business that didn't make it. Maybe they got sick and medical bills buried them despite insurance. Maybe they're a single parent working 2 jobs who missed a payment during the pandemic, choosing between that and rent. 620 means you've been knocked down. You're trying to rebuild. You're vulnerable. And Ford is about to exploit that vulnerability in ways that should be illegal. Here's what Americans don't understand about subprime lending. It's not just higher interest rates. It's the entire loan structure designed to extract maximum profit from maximum desperation. When you're subprime, you don't get promotional terms. Don't get rebates Tier 1 buyers get. Can't negotiate. You're told the payment. Take it or leave it. When you're sitting in that dealership and the finance manager finally returns after running your credit through 17 lenders and tells you Ford Credit approved you, you feel relief, gratitude, like someone finally gave you a chance. You don't realize you just signed up for financial ruin? That $68,000 lariat at 20% over 72 months. Monthly payment around $1,450 before insurance, registration, gas, maintenance. You're looking at $2,000 monthly, every month for 6 years. The math that should be criminal. Let's break down exactly what Ford is selling subprime buyers. The numbers are genuinely horrifying. Take that $78,000 Platinum sitting on the lot. Beautiful truck, loaded features, heated seats, panoramic sunroof, Bang & Olufsen sound, adaptive cruise. Makes you feel successful just sitting in it. Now finance it. Tier 1 buyer with excellent credit? Ford offers 0% for 60 months currently. 0. Put $10,000 down. Your payment on $68,000 is $1,133 monthly. Still expensive, but manageable with stable income. And you're not paying a single interest dollar. Total over 5 years? Exactly $68,000. But if you're subprime, sitting at $600 or below, Ford charges 22%, maybe 24%? Let's say 20% conservatively. Same truck, same $68,000 loan after down payment. But now, at 20% over 72 months, payment is $1,867. Total amount over 6 years? $134,424. You're paying $66,000 in interest alone for a truck worth $68,000. And that's assuming you make every payment on time. No missed payments, no late fees, no repossession costs. Reality? Most loans default within 18 to 24 months. Buyers underwater from day one. Truck depreciates immediately, but loan balance stays high because early payments go toward interest. When they can't pay anymore, truck gets repossessed. Ford sells it at auction. Cycle repeats. The tale of 2 Americas. Here's what makes this scheme even more disgusting. Ford runs 2 completely different financing programs simultaneously. If you're wealthy with great credit, the kind of buyer who doesn't need a deal, Ford gives you 0% financing. They're practically paying you to buy trucks. Walk in with a 750 score, and suddenly every door opens, every incentive applies. Every promotional rate is yours. But if you're struggling, the buyer who actually needs affordable financing, Ford charges interest rates that would make payday lenders blush. This is America's affordability crisis in microcosm. People who can most easily afford $70,000 trucks get them for free. People who can least afford it are charged double. Ford markets this as expanding access, as if charging someone with 600 credit 24% interest is doing them a favor, as if predatory lending equals opportunity. Industry analysts are sounding alarms. Auto loan defaults are at highest levels since 2009, delinquencies spiking, repossessions up 37% year over year, and that's before Ford started handing $70,000 loans to subprime buyers. The National Automobile Dealers Association released a quiet statement projecting significant wave of defaults in the truck segment by late 2025 if current trends continue. They didn't name Ford specifically. They didn't have to. Everyone knows this ends in disaster. Everyone except people signing loans. The repossession pipeline. Let's talk about what happens after the sale. That's where real horror begins. When someone with a 590 score finances a $72,000 truck at 22%, the math doesn't become sustainable just because Ford approved it. That person still has rent, groceries, utilities, insurance, medical bills, all the expenses that made their credit subprime initially. Now add a $2,000 truck payment. First few months, they make it work. Cut back on everything. Stop eating out. Cancel subscriptions. Pick up extra shifts. Do everything humanly possible to keep that truck because it's not just transportation. It's pride. Proof they made it. First nice thing owned in years. Then something happens. It always does. Transmission goes out on their other car. Kid needs braces. Furnace dies midwinter. Something breaks and suddenly they're choosing between fixing it and the truck payment. They miss one payment, then another. Late fees pile. Interest compounds. Ford Credit starts calling, texting, sending letters. One morning they walk outside and the truck is gone. Repossessed. Hauled away by a recovery agent who doesn't care about their story. Just inventory now. Another unit for auction. Here's what most don't know. When your vehicle gets repossessed, you don't just lose the truck. You lose everything. Down payment? Gone. All payments made? Barely touched principal. You're still on the hook for the difference between what Ford sells it for and what you owe. Your credit score drops another 150 points. Now you can't get approved for anything. When dealers become accomplices. The Ford dealership network is trapped in an impossible position, and most know exactly what's happening. Dealer principals and sales managers across the country look at lots overflowing with 2025 F-150s. They can't move and get desperate. Inventory carrying costs are brutal. Everyday trucks sit unsold. They lose money. Floor plan interest charged by banks adds up fast. Trucks that sat through summer and fall are now depreciating assets. Corporate is breathing down their necks. Monthly calls about unit sales, pressure hitting quotas, threats about future allocation. The message from Dearborn is clear: move these trucks or else. So when Ford Credit announces they're opening subprime lending, dealers don't see predation. They see a lifeline. Now they can approve buyers who walked off 3 months ago, convert credit declines into deals, hit numbers, make bonuses, get back in corporate's good graces. But here's the problem. Most dealers know exactly what happens next. They've been in this business long enough to see the pattern. They know $1,800 monthly payments on subprime incomes aren't sustainable. No default rates will be catastrophic. No, they're selling financial traps. They're doing it anyway. Some rationalize it. We're not forcing anyone. They're adults. They know what they're signing. Others genuinely convince themselves they're helping. At least this person drives a nice truck for a year. But truth is simpler. Commission on $78,000 trucks is too good to pass up. The family's caught in the crossfire. Let's put a face to this crisis. Meet Sarah, 34, single mom of 2, medical assistant at a rural clinic making $42,000 yearly. Credit score 595 because she chose mortgage over credit cards when her ex stopped paying child support 3 years ago. Drives a 2011 Chevy Malibu with 190,000 miles. It's dying. Transmission slips. Overheats in summer. She's terrified it'll break down on the highway with her kids inside. She needs a vehicle. Not luxury. Not want. Legitimate necessity. She goes to Ford because her dad always drove F-150s. Feels safe in trucks. Not looking for $70,000 Platinums. Looking for basic XL or XLT. Something reliable. Something lasting. But on the lot, there are no basic trucks. Cheapest F-150 is $59,000. Finance manager runs her credit. 3 banks decline, 4, 5. Just when she's about to leave devastated, he returns smiling. Good news. Ford Credit approved you. Someone finally gave her a chance. They explain terms quickly. 22% interest, 72 months. $6,500 down, $1,800 monthly. More than she wanted, but she needs a vehicle. After a dozen rejections, this feels miraculous. She signs. 3 months in, she's already behind. Payment eats 43% of take-home income. 6 months in, she misses her first payment. 9 months in, the truck is gone. This is what Ford's expanded access looks like. This is the human cost of moving inventory. 2008 is calling. If this sounds familiar, it should. We've been here before, not with trucks, but houses. Not Ford Credit, but Countrywide and Washington Mutual, and every lender who decided responsible underwriting got in profit's way. In 2005 through 7, the mortgage industry convinced itself lending money to people who couldn't afford it was fine, as long as home values kept rising. They called them subprime mortgages. Nina loans. No income, no assets. Approve anyone with a pulse. When people inevitably defaulted, banks would just foreclose and sell houses that supposedly went up in value anyway. We know how that ended. Housing market collapsed, banks failed, global economy nearly imploded, millions lost homes, fallout lasted a decade. And here's Ford in 2025 doing the exact same thing, just with trucks instead of houses. The parallels are chilling. Approve anyone regardless of ability to pay. Structure loans so early payments barely touch principal. Rely on repossession and resale to recover losses. Ignore systemic risk because quarterly profits matter more than long-term stability. Financial analysts are already drawing comparisons. A Bloomberg piece last week noted auto loan asset-backed securities show concerning signs of stress in the subprime segment. When defaults pile up, those securities lose value. When they lose value, investors panic. When investors panic, credit markets freeze. Just like 2008, people who created the mess walk away with bonuses while ordinary Americans lose everything. Everyone can see where this is heading, except people still signing loans. The stock market knows what Ford won't admit. Wall Street isn't stupid. When Ford's CFO announced plans to expand subprime lending during the last earnings call, there wasn't applause. There was silence. Then questions started. What's your projected default rate on these loans? How are you stress testing for potential recession? What's your exposure if repossession rates spike? The CFO tap danced around every answer. Talked about diversified risk management strategies and algorithmic underwriting improvements and rigorous case-by-case analysis. Investors heard what he wasn't saying. We're desperate. Ford's stock dropped 3% the next day. Not catastrophic, but enough to signal the market sees this move for what it is: a Hail Mary from a company backed into a corner. Concerns go deeper than defaults. There's a bigger question nobody at Ford seems willing to address. What happens to brand value when thousands of F-150s get repossessed? When Sarah's truck gets hauled away, she doesn't blame herself. She blames Ford. When her neighbor's truck gets repoed 6 months later, he tells everyone about the predatory loan. When stories circulate on Facebook groups and Reddit threads about Ford deliberately targeting vulnerable buyers with impossible loans, damage isn't just financial, it's reputational. Ford spent over a century building trust with American consumers. The F-Series has been a symbol of reliability, American manufacturing, hard work, and honest value. That brand equity is worth billions. They're gambling it all to move a few thousand overpriced trucks in a single quarter. GM and RAM are taking notes. Detroit is watching Ford's gambit with intense interest. Not in a good way. General Motors and Stellantis both have inventory challenges. They're not immune to the same market forces battering Ford, but so far they've resisted the urge to open subprime floodgates. Why? Because they've done the math, run scenarios, talked to finance divisions, legal teams, risk management departments. The answer came back unanimous. Don't do it. GM's chief financial officer addressed this directly in a trade publication interview last month. Careful not to name Ford. We're committed to responsible lending practices that protect both customers and shareholders. Short-term sales gains aren't worth long-term brand damage or systemic financial risk. RAM has been even more explicit. Their head of sales operations told an industry conference that Stellantis would rather discount aggressively than compromise underwriting standards. They've been offering $8,000 to $10,000 in rebates on slow-moving inventory, eating margin hits rather than gambling on subprime defaults. But here's what's interesting. Both companies are watching Ford's experiment closely because if it works, if Ford somehow moves inventory without triggering default cascades, they might be forced to follow suit. It's a race to the bottom nobody wants to start, but Ford might force everyone into. There's also a darker scenario keeping industry analysts up at night. What if Ford's subprime push succeeds short-term but creates systemic crisis long-term? In that scenario, Ford's decision doesn't just hurt Ford buyers. It hurts everyone, every brand, every dealer. The used truck apocalypse. Right now, a 3-year-old F-150 Lariat with 50,000 miles is worth about $42,000 in wholesale market. That's what dealers pay at auction. Retail, they'll sell it for $48,000 to $50,000. But what happens when the market gets flooded with repoed F-150s? Simple economics, supply and demand. When supply spikes, prices crash. And we're not talking small supply increase. If even 20% of Ford subprime loans default over the next 18 months, and historical data suggests it could be much higher, we're looking at tens of thousands of trucks hitting auction markets simultaneously. Dealers won't want them. They're already sitting on too much inventory. Private used market can't absorb that volume. Prices will collapse. That $42,000 wholesale Lariat, it'll be worth $32,000. Maybe 28, maybe less. That's where it gets truly catastrophic for everyone who owns an F-150, not just subprime buyers. If you bought a brand new F-150 in 2023, you probably financed around $70,000. You've made payments for 2 years. Paid down maybe $12,000 in principal. You still owe $58,000. But now your truck is worth $35,000. You're $23,000 underwater. If you need to sell or trade, you're financially trapped. This is negative equity cascade. It doesn't just affect people who made bad loans. It affects everyone in the market segment. Millions of F-150 owners nationwide are sitting on massive losses, and Ford set the fuse. When Washington finally notices, the Trump administration has been notably quiet about Ford's subprime lending expansion, but that silence probably won't last. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the federal agency created after 2008 crisis specifically to prevent predatory lending, has jurisdiction over auto loans. They have power to investigate, subpoena documents, and impose penalties on lenders violating fair lending laws. What Ford is doing might not technically be illegal, but it's walking right up to the line. The problem is CFPB is understaffed, underfunded, and fighting battles on multiple fronts. They're already investigating major credit card companies, mortgage servicers, payday lenders. Auto loans haven't been a priority because the industry was mostly self-regulating. Until now, congressional staffers have started circulating a memo laying out potential systemic risk. It compares Ford's strategy to subprime mortgage boom and explicitly warns about parallels to pre-crisis lending practices. The memo recommends immediate hearings and potential emergency regulatory action. But Congress moves slowly. Even if hearings happen, they won't occur for months. Legislation takes years. By the time Washington acts, thousands of families will already be trapped in unaffordable loans. There's also a political dimension complicating everything. The automotive industry is a major employer and economic driver. Ford operates plants in states that matter politically. Nobody wants to be the politician who attacked American manufacturing or killed auto jobs. Consumer advocacy groups are sounding alarms. The Center for Responsible Lending released a report calling Ford's subprime expansion unconscionable and demanding immediate federal intervention. But by the time bureaucracy catches up, damage will be done. The truck that built America is breaking it. For 77 years, it's represented American ingenuity, labor, grit. The truck that built suburbs, powered small businesses. The truck farmers, contractors, and weekend warriors trusted to get the job done. It's been best-selling vehicle in America for 47 consecutive years, not because of clever marketing, but because it earned that spot, because it delivered value, because it understood its customer. But somewhere along the way, Ford lost the plot. They stopped building a truck for people who need trucks and started building a luxury product for people signaling success. They priced out their core customer, then acted surprised when sales collapsed. And rather than fix the underlying problem, rather than build affordable, reliable trucks working Americans can actually buy, they decided to exploit the most vulnerable buyers in the market. That's not just a business mistake, it's betrayal. The American truck market is at a crossroads. For decades, it was defined by value, reliability, accessibility. You worked hard, saved up, bought a truck lasting 15 years. That truck became part of your identity, your family's story. But if the future is $80,000 luxury vehicles, financed at predatory rates to buyers who can't afford them, then trucks stop being tools and become symbols of a broken system. Stop representing opportunity and start representing exploitation. When that promise gets replaced with a subprime loan, destroying your credit and leaving you with nothing, you don't just lose a truck, you lose faith in the system. And that's not just Ford's failure, that's America's. Ford's gamble just lit the fuse on the next truck market shakeup. Chevy and Ram owners are already cashing in while F-150 prices slide. Want to know which brand drops next? Hit subscribe and comment your model and state below so we can track your resale in the next update.